Baseball lifestyle. It's my lifestyle.
That's where I spent my time on YouTube as a kid.
Lonely Island?
Yeah. That and Equals 3. Did you watch Equals 3?
No. I was a big Happy Tree Friends fan as a child.
No idea what that is.
Yes, I can hear you, Bill.
That's fucking dope that you're picking up all of this. This is how loud I'm talking. Welcome back to the Grounds Crew. ASMR Grounds Crew podcast.
I think that's a perfect way to start.
Me drinking coffee.
The sound of a bat hitting a ball.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Nice. Welcome back to the Grounds Crew, ladies and gentlemen. The best podcast in the world, in my unprofessional opinion. Bill, the off season is
Are
heating
you
up.
still unprofessional?
I don't know. Maybe
When
I'm
we hit a
professional.
year, is it like, or do we officially become like
Professionals?
professional podcasters?
I'd support that. Yeah.
I think it like if you do,
When do we start? February?
yeah.
Yeah.
So like
I'm
if
down.
you do every week pretty much for a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we also had some where we did multiple in the week. We'll have done over 50 podcasts by the time we get to February.
Yeah.
So that's better than one a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's a year's worth of podcasts. That's better than Dietz's podcast did.
Dun dun dun.
Damn.
Fantasy Pro Deets.
Anyways, so getting into the swing of things.
We have
A lot happened.
lot happened. I'm gonna rip through the awards first because I feel like free agency is a whole other conversation. Rookies of the year: Jonathan India and Randy Arozarena. I would say about halfway through the season, I picked those guys to be the winners, especially India, because he went off. He's a professional hitter, and I feel like Arozarena has also been in the league for 20 years. Like it just seems like he's been on the Rays for I don't even know how long, at least 3 seasons. In
Well,
some
so that's
capacity.
I think that's one of the things that I was seeing on Twitter, and I kind of agree with it to some degree. So let's again, you guys all know my favorite thing to do is to compare other sports because I hate just keeping it in baseball.
Yep.
Blake Griffin missed his rookie year because he had an injury that knocked him out for the entirety of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So he sits out his entire rookie year out of the NBA and then comes back and wins the rookie of the year the next year. Do you count Blake Griffin as a rookie at that point?
It's hard to, and like looking at Arozarena's thing, like he played in parts of 2019 and 2020.
What was he in 2020?
He was a playoff hero.
What was he in the World Series?
What are like his playoff stats?
Yeah.
Good question.
I'm on it.
Dennis is on it. He only played 20 games in 2019 and 23 in 2020.
So again, that's my point. Is like this guy played in a bunch of games, but across 2 different years,
With 2 different teams.
and then played an entire full season this year, and we're counting him as a rookie. I kind of like listen. I like Randy killed it. He's a young player. He's a really good up and coming young player. My big problem though is he was the ALCS MVP, and you gave the ALCS MVP the Rookie of the Year award the next year. That's not a rookie, man.
Yeah.
That's a bastard. Like, I get that he missed out on the limit of how many he needed, but like I feel like he then exceeded the amount that he was allowed to have contribute to his Rookie of the Year. Like, we should have stopped counting his stats at the All-Star break. Because like if you took all his other years and you took all of his at-bats, you would equate that he got to a full season if you stopped at the All-Star break. And then his numbers wouldn't look. You'd be like, yeah, he's a good player. He's not a great player. Like, but I don't know I think that baseball did wrong with it because I think it's just, again, it comes back to our point. The homie should have been in the league way before this. The fact that this guy was a ALCS MVP and then was able to win the Rookie of the Year award, but that year he won the ALCS MVP, that also wasn't the first year he played in the MLB. Like, that's all of the stuff that's wrong with baseball all wrapped into one thing. Yeah. Like, that dude shouldn't be able to have that many opportunities at that late in his life because he's 26 and change. He'll be 27, I believe, before the season starts, before they play regular season games. And if he's 27 next year, you're talking about a guy who's going to be in his age 27 season, who's coming off of a Rookie of the Year, and it'll be his 4th year that he has at bats in the MLB. That just such a hard take for me.
Yeah, I think if any, I would have probably rather give it to Wander Franco from going the same team. He had 70 games played, and he was ridiculous.
And he was a better player.
Yep.
In less games, but if they had brought him up from the start, his numbers would have been better anyway, and he would have gotten it. So again, it quantifies all of the worst parts, because Wander Franco, from what everybody seems to think, is like a Trout level player, right? He's an elite. He's the best of the best, top 20 player in the league kind of guy, top 10 maybe top 5. Who knows where he'll peak? But if we believe that that's the case on this guy, what is something that a lot of the other young players have all gotten an opportunity to partake in? Being Rookie of the Year. Because if you have a guy who's that good, you bring him up right from the start, so he has a Rookie of the Year on his docket. Because this is going to end up being one of those things that we say, well, is he better than this guy? Well, this guy won Rookie of the Year, and he didn't. He lost to a guy on his own team who was almost 30.
In his 3rd season in the
his
major
third
leagues.
season in the league, Wander Franco is 19, 20 years old. We broke this. This is again, baseball is broken.
He played
across
70
so
games,
much.
so he's not going to be eligible for Rookie of the Year next
No,
year.
I think it's 150 at bats, right? I don't think
Is
it's
that
the
all
game.
it
I
is?
think it's the at bats. Yeah, 151, right?
I am not sure.
So again, if
I feel it has to be. I'm going to lean towards yes.
I'll tell you in 2 seconds.
He had 308 plate.
Exceeded rookie limits during the 2021 season. It's on his baseball reference page.
Great.
So he is no longer a rookie status. And he is 6 years, almost to the day, younger than Randy.
That's crazy.
And had a 3.5 WAR, and Randy had a 4.1 in 529 at bats. This is the thing where old school heads will tell you that the counting stats matter. And it's ERA is that's got to be the thing. That's got to be the only thing. Forget all the other stuff. And it's it's part of it, but you're gassing this up by not taking into these advanced metrics and the opportunity that was presented. If I told you right now you had to make a trade for your life, that this player is going to have the better next season, would you draft Wander or Randy?
Wander.
So, What are we doing? We know who the better player was, and we messed it up. So let's move on from that one, because I have a whole bunch of... Now, Jonathan India, great for him. He had a great season.
Unbelievable season.
He built up a lot of hype. He's homies with our guy, Tristan. I'm glad to see him win. He deserved it. All good things. So I guess that's less... Is there somebody else that you feel like should have been more in the conversation, or do you agree with me on him that he had it?
Not really, honestly. Like I was saying, you could kind of see how great he really was, midway through the season. The Reds came to play the Mets.
Yep.
And I was watching him, and he took Carrasco deep, first pitch, and just had unbelievable at bats the entire series. Just looking at
and again, he's an older guy. But this was his first rodeo at the MLB level, right?
Yep.
So, he's a 24-year-old who finally came up.
Yep.
And, again, if you're a fan of this podcast, you know where I'm going with this. Why did a 24-year-old who had a 21 home run, 835 OPS second baseman season, why was he not in the show last year?
How many years was he in the minors? That's good.
He's 24.
I know, but I don't know how old he was when
Well,
he got drafted.
I'm just saying he's 24, and he will actually be 25 in December. So, no matter when he got drafted, he was drafted in 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the first round, after being a 26th round pick in the 2015 draft, he was a first round pick in the 2018 draft. And then he spent a number of years again. So we got to go down the Jonathan India pipeline. I gotta know more about my man, because
Dennis, you have something?
I was just gonna say he spent 2 seasons in the minors.
Okay.
And how did he do in those 2 seasons? Now, remember, He spent 2 seasons in the minors, but that includes the fact that last year he most likely didn't play.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
Because the 2020 season had nothing.
Correct.
So he played 2 years, and then he got squandered last year. So, like, I get that was one of the – if you want to tell me that that's the move, fine. Like, maybe that's the thing that kept him down. Mm-hmm. But
the only other person I was thinking about, too, as a Rookie of the Year candidate was Trevor Rogers, pitcher for the Marlins.
Okay.
He was phenomenal. I saw his first start, actually, against Jacob deGrom at Citi Field, like, early last year, and I was super impressed. I think the Marlins won 1-0, actually. And he shoved, and we saw him he was at the All-Star game, and I know he had some like family issues in the middle of the season. I think some people in his family were sick with COVID, so I think he missed some starts, which might have hurt him. Which is unfortunate that that's even like a thing that you can kind of lose the opportunity from something like that. But like just looking at the voting here, he had 1 first place vote and 26 second place votes. And then 29 first for India and 1 second. So like the majority of the writers
they knew who was first and they knew who was second.
Yeah.
They decided that India was the guy, and they decided that
he killed it. And like that's respect. I would have been fine with either one.
So I'm pulling up my numbers because this is my favorite part of the show. Can you pull up Brett Beatty's numbers for me real quick?
Ding. Did you want Jonathan India's minor league stats?
I already have Jonathan India's minor league stats,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm pulling up Beatty's because I want the comp. So last episode we talked a little bit about at-bats and OPS in the minors and how that can potentially dictate performance.
Right.
Some guys, like India, we pull up an interesting case study. In 578 at-bats in the minors, he has a 254 batting average and a 779 OPS. This past season, he almost had as many at-bats at the MLB level as he had in his entire minor league career, and he batted .269 with 21 home runs, .835 OPS. But when you really look at his numbers, he equates to he got a little bit more power, but he was relatively the same player. Now, the reason I bring this up is I said, how many at-bats does a guy need? You look, and if you have a guy who has a 900-plus OPS, he might not need much time. Mm-hmm. But then you have a guy like India and I think Beatty, who all lost like a very, very premium year of development by being lost to COVID year, that we're a little bit behind on where should we push them and how fast should they go. Because India was doing all of that, but then missed a whole season of being able to accumulate stats as a better player. So his numbers don't get to rise. But it's interesting that he's only a 779 OPS and only had 578 at-bats. So Dietz is going to give me Beatty.
So Beatty has 520 at-bats in 2 minor league seasons.
So let's hold on. So I can at least say that comparably, this looks like India.
Correct.
Cool. Hit me.
271 batting average, 842 OPS. He has 19 home runs and 89 RBIs.
So this is why I am so bullish on the show about Brett Beatty. Mm-hmm. Is Beatty was even younger because he wasn't a college drafted player. He was drafted out of high school.
Right.
So the numbers he accumulated in the minors, he has always been much younger. He's right now a 21-year-old.
Mm-hmm. He actually just turned 22 last week.
Yeah. So he's a fair bit younger than Jonathan India, almost 3 years younger. And he's had better numbers in the minors. I don't think he needs many more bats. And my point is that India showed that, hey, all these at-bats and what I was able to do, we lost the Beatty year where he trained. But he came back, and all of a sudden everybody sees him. He lost all the fat. He got in good shape. He's tall. He can hit for power. He can run. He can field. He can do all this stuff. Now he's in a fall-star. And, again,
He's been making some serious leaps in the fall.
And I really want to see more teams start pushing these young guys forward because they're good enough to play. And I don't want to see I know that this is a terrible thing for me to say, but like the Jonathan Villars of the world, I don't want to see. Like if you were in the NFL and you were an okay player, you were a depth player on an NFL team,
like a Mike White,
and you had 8 seasons in the league, 6 to 8 seasons in the league, you absolutely killed it. But are you telling me that we're not going to have a first-round pick on our team because we're going to keep this other guy who's going to rotate in occasionally instead of our high upside guy who's going to learn with those limited minutes. It just doesn't make any sense in any other sport. But you know who does it? The MLB. It's broken. So
Yep.
I hope. So I love seeing India, and I look forward to Beatty being the Rookie of the Year next year.
I would love to see him come up. Honestly, the more I'm looking at it too, I want to see Vientos too. And
Ooh.
Ding.
that's
that
fine.
wasn't me. I don't know if that
That's
counts.
fine. No, I don't for sure. But I was
You've been
looking
seeing
at
the tweets,
for sure.
and then you watch some of the highlights, and you're like, "Wow, his power is
He's legit. He's legit. He's legit.
Again, I think the Mets minor league system is when they re-rank us, when they re-rank the system this offseason, Mets are going to finish in the top half, if not the top 10.
We have like 6 or 7 top 100 guys.
Yep, and we have I think now 4 or 5 top 50 guys.
Yeah.
So when you're saying that 10% of the top 50 is in one organization, I don't know how that organization is not in the top 15, top 10.
Yeah, we'll
there's
see.
Not that the percentages don't work that way.
We got Cy Young awards yesterday. Robbie Ray and Corbin Burns. Less surprised about Robbie Ray.
Yep.
I thought that was a lock. The NL was definitely a much more challenging thing, but I'm hyped for Corbin Burns. I think he deserved it. His start to the season was unbelievable with all his strikeouts and things. Like he was dealing. There's just a lot of great pitching in the NL, but I'm hyped about Corbin Burns. I think it was well deserved. I did think it was very interesting that Jacob deGrom did receive a vote for Cy Young, albeit first for 5th place. He only had 15 starts, but everybody knows that. And I saw a lot of tweets like, Corbin Burns won the Cy Young because Jacob deGrom got hurt halfway through the season. Congratulations, Corbin Burns. Like, he was destroying the league. He had like a 1 ERA.
For sure, I think it's tough to like look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's
it's a very cynical way to look at it.
And I think it's a little derogatory towards the guys who really did a lot to achieve, because part of it is being healthy. I think that the this again goes for me a little bit is Corbin Burns won it, but he pitched 167 innings, and Wheeler pitched 217.
Yep.
I think this was one of the closer ones. This looks like a DeGrom win, where there was another guy with better accounting stats, but this guy had the better underlying metrics. Because I'm pretty sure that Corbin's like FIP was
first in the league.
What was it, 1.6 something?
1.63.
So if you're looking at that, he was much more dominating than almost everybody else in the league. And I'd have to assume that Wheeler's was above 3. So Dennis is going to pull that up for me because I'm making bold claims that I don't actually have any proof to, just opinion. But the reality is, I look at it and I say he was in the Phillies park.
He came in second in voting.
2.59.
Okay, so again, he was actually slightly better, but again, he was almost a full run behind Corbin from that standpoint. Listen, I think they got it right. I think anybody who says that Wheeler got robbed, I could see your conversation.
Well, they actually tied for first place votes.
Yes.
And then Burns just had more second, third, etc.
Yep. And that's why those things matter.
Yeah. Yep.
And like that becomes the point of, did he get robbed? Like, because if a guy decides to vote Corbin Burns as the third guy because he gave a vote to DeGrom instead, and then all of a sudden that was a third place vote for Corbin Burns instead of a second place or something like that, because a guy decided that he liked somebody else, like that decided the whole thing.
Right.
And it wasn't really like an apples to apples engagement. But again, it's part of the deal, right? This is what happens when we go to just regular voting and we have no real criteria and it's all subjective and there's not an objective measure of what success equals.
Yep.
And it's the great thing about sports and it's the bad thing about it, you know? Because I heard, again, Shaq was talking about, there was a clip of him saying that Jordan was the best player in the game because how he was 6-0 in the finals. And I said, oh, great, Shaq, 100% I agree with you. So Shaq, you're worse than Big Shot Bob, right? And we talked about it last time. And have a guy have 11 rings as a bench player for multiple championship teams. So if winning is all that matters, he's better than all y'all. But that's not the case. And you would tell me, you'd immediately look at me, well, that's not the case. Cool. So you're admitting that now wins are subjective. They're not an objective measure either. As soon as you say that, you have to say, okay, where's our line? It can't be, you can't have the line be that Jordan was undefeated. He missed 2 years in the middle where they lost. He came back and he lost. He didn't even make it in his prime. So so it's okay for him to not even get there in his prime? Like it's okay to fall before then? Like lose before you get, it's always been dumb. So the thing with baseball is I want everybody to agree on what are we deciding.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's going to still be staying the same for a while because they have a lot more hurdles to deal with in other areas.
Way more hurdles.
Yeah.
Bring the young guys up.
Yep. Free agency. Let's get into it.
Ooh, baby.
Had some signings last week or a little bit this week as well. Eduardo Rodriguez went to Detroit, 5 years, $77 million. Barrios, you know what? I want to stay in Detroit for a second. I saw a lot of people talking, and I think we talked about this on the last episode, that Detroit was going to be involved in a lot of big name talks. I think they're still definitely on the table for Correa, who we're going to get to in a little bit. And I think they're not done yet with spending money like this because honestly, Rodriguez is a really solid lefty at only $15 million a year. Plenty more for them to work with. And there's a lot of free agents still out there that are solid arms. The Blue Jays re-signing Barrios for 7 years at $18 million, a little over 18 per year, $130 million total, $131 million total.
Way to save that one.
Yeah. I love that move so much.
So was I with you when that happened?
Yeah, or we ran into each other that day.
But I know I was sitting with somebody. Actually, I was sitting with Josh. So I was sitting with Shap at a coffee shop talking when the Barrios deal came through. And I immediately was just absolutely shocked because he signed for less than $20 million a year for a guy who just had a mid-3 ERA and was part of a super team. They traded a whole bunch for him. I feel like he signed for nothing. Like, Strowman's trying to get more than this, right?
Yeah.
Like Strowman, Dietz, you with me on this? Strowman's trying to get more than what Barrios just signed for.
I have to think that Strowman at least thinks he's as valuable, if not more valuable, than Syndergaard, who signed with the Angels for 1 year at $21 million.
But that's my point. He signed for 1 year. Like, that's a mercenary contract. So if you're gonna sign 5, 6, 7 years, it's gonna be less money.
Sure.
Like, so it looks like Barrios signed the long deal with less money to get more money overall.
Right.
Right.
You think that has to do with the CBA? Want a little security?
I think I think he pulled that trigger and he wanted that, and especially I think the Latin market where guys are like, hey, let me secure my money, let me secure my bag because this goes a long way for me back home. Mm-hmm. Like I live a different lifestyle. I have family. I came up poor. Versus a guy like Strowman who's like, yeah, I got a clothing brand, I got all this stuff. I could sit back and do nothing. Like, pay me my money.
Yeah.
This reminds me, I feel like Strowman is going to remind me a lot of like when Dallas Keuchel was a free agent.
Really free agency?
But also he was never going to move off his number. He's like, I've been a great pitcher. Mm-hmm. I've killed the numbers. And everybody's like, yeah, but you're like 31, 32. And like, we just don't all think that you're going to age well. And he's like, forget y'all. I'm going to age beautifully. And what has Keuchel been since then? And Dietz, I know, is pulling me up to get me Dallas's numbers.
Not great. I want to say he was like the fourth guy on this White Sox rotation.
But he won a Gold Glove.
He did win a Gold Glove.
But he had a 5.28 ERA this year.
Yeah.
He had a 5.28 ERA this year. So in his last 3 years, if you take last year 2020 where he got to throw into the fact that they weren't really playing a lot, his last couple years since he left Houston, he signed that 1 year deal with Atlanta and he had a 3.75 in 19 starts. And that's fine, right? But when you look at his underlying numbers, his FIP was a 4.72. So immediately everybody was right by not giving him the bag. And then the White Sox came out. He gets a 1.99 in limited starts last year. This year, a 5.28. And he has not been who he thought he was. So I think that's what everybody's worry is with Strowman, is like it's a very similar situation.
Yeah. You know what? His average or his yearly pay is $18.5
for Keuchel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So like it ends up being that if you think that these guys are Keuchel level players, that's the number.
And just a little fun fact, and this is for Dennis.
Oh, shoot.
Dallas Keuchel's father's name is Dennis.
Wow.
That's cool.
Are
man.
you his dad?
No.
That makes sense.
But Dennis said he does like the name Dallas for children.
There you go.
Yeah. Just
There
a
you go.
little tidbit for you.
I feel like too much personal information is coming out right now.
All his exes live in Texas.
There you go.
So again, I was shocked by the Berrios deal, but again, it cements my early, way in advance pick that the Blue Jays are winning the World Series next year, and they're coming all the way for the title because this is a stacked team. Like you got to bring back Robbie, like you got to figure something out. But if you do,
so what do you pay? So if you're paying Berrios $18.7 a year, what's Robbie Ray worth then?
You want the real answer?
Real answer.
Or the other answer?
Give me the answer that
the
ends
exact
with
same deal.
Exact same deal, really?
Exact same deal.
Okay.
And
even after he just came off a Cy Young?
Yep.
Because I think that's automatically he's going to ask for more money.
So again, like the challenge for him is like it becomes one of those moments where it's like, if you're the Blue Jays, you can't.
Can't pay him, or
you
can't pay him a boatload.
You can't pay him a boatload.
But you try to re-sign him
because he just so Berrios had a 3.5 ERA, but his FIP was a 3.28, right?
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Ray had a 2.84 ERA, and his FIP was a 3.69. I am spot on, and I'm standing by it. I would not pay Robbie Ray more than I just paid Berrios. They're the same pitcher.
Okay.
I get the Cy Young thing, but like this goes back to R.A. Dickey. Do you give R.A. Dickey wins a Cy Young? Do you give R.A. Dickey the bag that you give Jacob deGrom?
No, totally
Garrett
different
Cole,
pitchers, though.
but they're not. Look at
numerically, sure.
I will tell you right now. If I told you that you had to have the 5 best years of Robbie Ray or the 5 best years of R.A. Dickey, who are you choosing?
Robbie Ray.
No shot.
100%.
There's no shot. You can even look at it now.
Had like 1 or 2
Nope.
good years.
False. Absolutely false. Well, how many good years has Robbie Ray had?
I don't know, but he's younger than Dickey was when he came up.
Nope.
I have both their stats up whenever.
Please
Hit
go,
me with your
go
best
for
shot.
it.
My phone is frozen.
So who do you want first, Robbie Ray or R.A.
I
Dickey?
want Robbie Ray's ERAs the last 5 seasons.
Okay, so last 5 seasons, you have, so we're going back to 2016.
Yeah. ERA
was 4.90, 2.89, 3.93, 6.62, and then 2.84.
So he's roughly a 4 ERA guy.
Sure.
R.A. Dickey.
Do you want it to be around when?
I want the Mets version of R.A. Dickey into when he signed. He got traded to Toronto.
So first year with the Mets, 2.84, and second year with the Mets, 3.28. Mind you, he was 35 when he joined the Mets too.
Keep going.
2.73 last year with the Mets, and then his first 2 seasons in Toronto, he's a 4.21 and a 3.71 pitcher.
So that's a 3.5 ERA guy or better. I thank you, R.A.
You said
Dickey.
5 best years. R.A. Dickey was in the league, just to give you an idea, from 2001 roughly to 2017.
So again, because
the first 10 years he was terrible.
So again, this is the first time on this show where we've had that Gerson's too young to remember.
Sure.
So he didn't remember. So he wasn't aware that R.A. Dickey was that effing guy. And the best season that Robbie Ray has ever had would not have been the best season that R.A. Dickey had. R.A. Dickey's first year with the Mets was a 2.84. First year. He then was a number 1 pitcher for 5 years. Stop. Robbie Ray has 1 good year under his belt. It was this year. This is following 2 mediocre-ass seasons. One bad year. One bad year and then some mediocre. You're telling me right now, like, and what did R.A. Dickey make? Like, there's a reason why R.A. Dickey was traded for Syndergaard and Travis d'Arnaud, who just got a ring traded in that piece. Syndergaard just signed for $21 million. Both of those guys were required to get R.A. Dickey. For me, Robbie Ray, great story.
Okay, so then hear me out on
Hard for
this.
me to say that I'm going to give him that bag.
Okay. I would say he is going to get more annually, but way shorter of a deal. I say he goes for 3 to 5 at like 20.
I think they're going to sit down at the meeting, and I think they're going to look at him, and they're going to say, we got 2 deals on the table for you, right? The deal you just talked about, we'll give you 4 years. We'll pay you whatever, $22 million a year. We'll risk it as well. Or we'll give you one less year at the same annual average as we just gave Berrios because you're older. Right?
Yeah.
And if I'm them, I hope he takes the 4 years more expensive deal. I hope he takes less money because I do not think he's going to age well.
I have a great comp, and I'm forgetting his name right now. Won a Cy Young with the Red Sox. Pitched for the Mets 2 years ago. Though it was really slow.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, he didn't age well either.
Oh, my goodness. Dennis, you know who I'm talking about?
I'm pulling up Cy Young winners right now. This is great podcasting.
I know. I don't know why I'm completely blanking on his name.
I know what you're talking about, and he had a couple of good years, and then all of a sudden he came to, like, they changed his mechanics.
It was literally the year after he was terrible.
And he started doing all this different stuff, and he just wasn't the same player.
Porcello?
Rick Porcello, yes.
Yeah, Porcello.
And his stats were trash after. And it was very Mets of him to.
Again, he was a guy who from 20 to 26, his best season was a 3.43 ERA. And he was a mid-4 to high-4 ERA guy. Then in 2016, my man popped off 22 wins and a 3.15 ERA in 33 starts. He pitched 223 innings. He struck out 189.
Yep.
And they gave him the bag, and then he was a 4.65, 4.28, 5.52, 5.64. Smell you later. He didn't even pitch in the league this past year.
Yep.
The season after he won Cy Young, too, he led the league in losses. I don't know if that
Yep.
matters. But
it doesn't matter. He was a 4.65 guy, and he had a 4.6 FIP.
Didn't they win the World Series that year?
Yeah, he was. That's why everything kind of coalesced around him getting the bag. And again, like this is the point that I'm making to you is like if I'm looking at Robbie Ray, like I don't know how I look at him, and I say like he should be looking at it not being super greedy because I do not think that anybody on the market is going to look at him and be like, you know what? A 30-plus-year-old pitcher who just had his best season ever, he's only on the way up, baby. He's only on the way up. No, the reality is go with what his FIP was and think that he got lucky in terms of what ERA is. And if we think he was lucky with ERA and he was closer to a 3.7 ERA guy after the last 3 seasons, he had a 6.5 FIP, a 4.29, and a 4.3. And when he was getting in the 4 FIPs, he was pitching in the National League. And he was able to come up and throw to another pitcher every so often.
Right.
So let's say, again, my guy is really a mid-4 ERA guy. He's not as good as Berrios. He just had a great season.
Yep.
I can't.
That's why I'm saying
that
that's a good comp in that he had average seasons beforehand, has one good season, then it's like, okay, we'll give you money. But I don't think, especially with the way the Blue Jays are trying to build for the future, I don't think they're going to want to buy into something that's.
And at that point in time, I'd rather let him walk and go on the free agent market, and have somebody else overpay him and let another pitcher come to me. But like again, like to me, that's why Berrios is a steal. Is a steal. Because that dude is better than his numbers looked. I watched him pitch. That dude was in the easiest to hit in division in all of baseball. And he still was lights out.
Yeah.
That's the guy you pay. It didn't matter where he was, big park, small park, some as big as your head. Dude just chucked and won games.
And like he's been on the Twins, right? And they're always like a decent team, but now he's on the Jays where he's gonna have some serious pop behind him, and I think that definitely, as someone who pitched for a while, that confidence is definitely helpful in just being able to throw more strikes and just feel like you have a more ability to dominate. And I think that I think the best is ahead for Berrios.
And then this brings us to the most shocking and surprising signing, which is Syndergaard.
Yep.
Syndergaard signs for $21 million for a single season with the Angels.
Well done, Angels.
Well done, Angels.
Well done. Proud of you.
So a lot of people are like, you're absolutely nuts for doing it. Hasn't pitched in 2 years. Has been injury prone. You're giving him $21 million and you have no idea what you're getting. On the flip side, if you believe that the Noah Syndergaard that we saw at the end of the year, who was healthy and was ready to go, is the healthy version of Noah Syndergaard, you are underpaying for an elite player. The last time. So this is the thing that we talk about, right? Going just 2019 and back to when he started in the league, 2015.
Okay.
I'm going off FIP. I'm not even going to give you ERA. 3.25, 2.29, 1.31, 2.80, 3.6. And the 3.6 is the year where the body fell apart and he came back the next year and he wasn't the same. He was injured. He missed it. Right? So he got hurt at the end of that year. That was the end. That elbow was probably on its way out anyway. And that 3.6 FIP actually equated to he had a 4.28 ERA that year. His career average ERA is a 3.32. So he is Berrios, but that's counting the fact that we have a Tommy John backed up years. He has a 9 ERA this year in very limited inning, and then he's got a 4 something in the year that he got hurt. He's Berrios, and if he's Berrios, and you're going out there, that's a great signing.
Yep.
And that's a low risk signing. Because how often does a guy coming off this injury at his skill level completely suck? Almost never.
I mean, the velo was there when he came back, and I have to imagine he's gonna be ramping himself up during the offseason.
Yep.
He hasn't even thrown off speeds yet. Like he was really only like 70% coming up like in the last couple games of the season.
So the only thing I'm hearing and the only thing I agree with is that because it's been so long since he's pitched, he probably is going to be on a pitch count of 125 innings. So even if he's a dog, you're only going to probably get 125 to 140 innings out of him. And if that's the case, you're paying him roughly $30 million a year. And at $30 million, that's risky.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And now I'm with you on the risk. For the Mets, y'all are doing the right thing. Homegrown. You guys know where I'm at. With him walking away, I feel like they have to dive in on see what the kids can do.
I think it definitely presents a bigger question for them. Definitely, because I would say, I mean, there are definitely some decent, less expensive free agent pitchers. But yeah, I know we definitely have some prospects that could fill roles. Obviously, Tyler McGill is a name that we've been talking about a lot. And I hope for the Angels' sake that Syndergaard does stay healthy. I think even so, I've heard that they're not done bringing in arms, and I would like to see. Obviously, we want them to go on a playoff run, right?
Yep.
I hope that they kind of organize his innings to a degree that if there was going to be an opportunity for them to make it to the playoffs, that he's available for it. Because he's been there, he's been successful in that, and I think if he ran out of innings in mid-September, that would be really unfortunate, and then we'd see the Angels just get hammered in one postseason. And I think we talked about it as well. The fact that it's a 1-year deal also presents for Syndergaard, hey, play well, and we can give you more money. The next year,
and that's why I think
that's
why I think it's good for all sides. Like they have one more year before they have to give the bag to Shohei.
Yep.
Right. So you got to kind of find out how close are we. And if Syndergaard is great in 125 innings, he's already there. He already likes you. You give him the bag. You're gonna go into the luxury tax by a wide margin. You guys are gonna have a whopper of a roster. you're going to be paying $250 million to that team. You go all in to win and to win a World Series. Because if you got Trout, Rendon, Walsh, Shohei, you've got Syndergaard and Shohei pitching, that team should win a bunch of games.
Mm-hmm. And I really think, just based on how we've seen all the other kind of like really solid playoff teams be structured, you need 3 really solid starters. And then you got to have, let's say, 3 great bullpen arms. And I don't really think there's any holes in their lineup. So the fact that they're already making this step of, cool, we need to get in on pitching, just start going. Well, just start buying up.
So the Angels drafted 20 pitchers last year.
Yes, I know. Which is fantastic.
So they did what they needed to, right?
Mm-hmm. The question then becomes is how fast will any of them come up?
Right. And again, I think that it's a tale of two teams. The Mets know what they have. Mm-hmm. They have to make a choice because, like, this brings back the equation that we talked about. This takes a trade of DeGrom off the table because you need him.
Yep.
He's got to anchor the staff now. If you have a year of Syndergaard, you could maybe say, hey, we could finagle, we could do this, we could do that. We have our guy. Next year's pitching staff is right now DeGrom, Taijuan Walker, Carlos Carrasco, McGill, and what?
No clue. Peterson, Rich Hill, maybe we
So
resign.
that's the answer for me.
Peterson?
Is that everybody has forgotten about David Peterson. And the dude was another guy who had a janky elbow that lost some of what made him good. Now, I don't think that David Peterson is an elite pitcher, right? It's not my point. But David Peterson is a guy that you could stick in the 5th spot as a lefty, and he's going to get you a 4.5 ERA, bulldog you, and he's going to occasionally win some games. You need those players in a regular season. So that guy has to be in the rotation for what's going on. My next question is, Joey Lucchesi, he's gone, right? He got Tommy?
Yeah.
Right? So the Mets had so many TJ injuries last year that those are the things that I just don't know how they equate. I would say that the Mets are going to take some more Taijuan Walker type deals because Carrasco's making $20 million next year, right?
Yeah, something like that.
We have to expect that Carrasco's going to be better than this year because he was an abomination this year.
Yep, and he's hurt for the majority of the season.
The hurt really set him back, and then you come in and the season was pretty much over, and DeGrom's hurt, and you know the air was out of their sails after LeBron. Same thing. After DeGrom got hurt.
Yeah.
I just, again, I think the more we're looking at this, the only thing I think is going to happen at this point is there's one player trying to force their way to New York and to the New York Mets.
You talking about Juan, or are you talking about Carlos?
I'm talking about Carlos. It seems like Correa wants to go to the Mets.
You think so? You think with the so expand on why you're saying that?
Well, no, I'll let you expand. What do you take of what he did?
I think it was and
so
I find
explain to the fans.
Carlos Correa has been doing and rightfully so. I think it's a smart move. He's on a lot of Spanish media podcasts and different news outlets and stuff like that. And on one of them, he said straight up, Derek Jeter did not deserve a single Gold Glove that he won.
Facts.
And obviously, the Yankee fans were, I don't even know if angry is the word, furious. And
I mean, it's this was a religious institution that he attacked.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
This was a verbal terrorist attack.
Yep. And so obviously everyone's just, and we have a Yankee fan in our office that's like, Correa, please give him all the money. And then I thought it was interesting. Next day, the Yankees are back in on Corey Seager.
Amazing, right? Yeah. And Correa has an interesting case. So one of the things that I don't know where Baez is going to end up. I heard his market. Everything I read is that everybody wants Baez to come, which makes that trade look even worse. If you're going to tell me that the guy we're going to let him walk and we're not going to pay him anything, because then
what's interesting too is I heard big one was the Red Sox. but he'd go play second base at the Red Sox anyway.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Mets, I'd look at whatever deal they give him
And offer the same thing.
the same thing.
And if the Mets offer him the deal his best deal, they match his best deal, he'll be a Met.
Yep.
Right. The question is, do they want that? What's going on? But the thing that I find super, super interesting is it looks like all the Latin players want to play with Francisco Lindor. Like, he's got the pull.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when you look at a thing from Correa like this, it just looks like Correa is here for, like, I want to come and I want to be a part of that group. I want to be with Baez.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be with Lindor. I want to be part of that. And you got Juan Soto trying to get himself to Queens. Like, the things that look like they're aligning is all centered around getting Francisco Lindor. And my question starts to become is, did the Mets know this?
I have to think to some degree they did. Like, I think we always knew that Lindor was, well liked throughout the game. Obviously,
Yeah.
there were a little bit of issues within the team itself this year, but throughout the game, you could always tell that he was very friendly with everyone, and he was, Mr. Smile, and kind of was really good for the game. And I think everybody recognized that. But there are always like big name guys who are like, they know everyone, they're involved with everyone. And I think, especially when you look back at the Puerto Rican team from the World Baseball Classic, all the names we're listing were on that team,
Yep.
and they were real good.
Yep.
And if you assemble that squad who are already friendly together and know that they can have a really good team all in one place, I think they recognize that. I have to assume they talk at least to some degree.
So this is starting to remind me to some degree of like the Celtics / the Miami Heat.
Let's build a super team type thing.
The banana boat guys, like when all the friends, hey, we're going to team up together on a team and make a super team, and we're going to win a whole bunch of titles together.
Mm-hmm.
MLB has never seen that.
Mm-mm.
Right? That never has been Lindor forced Baez to the Mets.
Oh, yeah.
The Mets were in on Chris Bryant. Like, that's who they were going for.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, Baez. And then Baez was a Met. And everybody
Baez, same podcast, by the way. For a little fun fact. The one when Javi Baez said, I would play second base if I was on the Mets, same one that Correa was on. And then it was like 3 days later. It was like, the Mets are suddenly on Javi Baez.
Like, so like success leaves clues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's interesting where there's smoke, there's fire, all these different phrases that we have.
Yeah.
It looks like I could see this now happening. The only reason I could not see it happening is the Beatty situation, because the feel of him league wide now is like he's David Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you do that with a guy who goes to third, even if he's a monster. Because I feel like the homegrown aspect with the Mets means a lot more.
Yeah.
And the Mets don't have a homegrown superstar right now that's not Jacob deGrom.
Yeah. The rest of them were kind of falling
Conforto's
off.
leaving. Nimmo's a really nice player, but not a great player. J.D. Davis didn't really come up. Yeah, we found him, but it's not that. Our catcher wasn't our guy. Pete Alonso is a superstar. Pete Alonso, this is going to be the year Pete becomes a superstar.
Yeah.
So, like...
Well, so then that becomes the thing, and I think Carlos Correa's age has a lot to do with it. He's 27. So we're getting the prime Carlos Correa, and he's got all the vet experience. He's been in one World Series.
You are 1,000,000%. The reality is, though, to me, is that unless we'd be willing to because if Baez comes back too,
mm-hmm.
that means our infield is locked. That means that Beatty is officially a left fielder.
Or a trade piece.
And that to me becomes, like, I get you, I'm with you. You never know.
If we're comparing like the option of Correa versus Bryant as like who would the Mets bring in to play third base, and then what would you do with all the other great pieces we have that could not make it up because of that? I don't. Dennis, you know how old Chris Bryant is? I want to say he's like 31 or 32, maybe even older.
I think
31.
he's 30.
31.
I think this will be his age 31 season.
But like, if you call it that, we got Carlos Correa for let's say 8 years.
Oh man,
That's
he'd be 35.
He'd be 35.
Oh,
No, Chris Bryant's just turning 30. Like,
Okay.
he's still 29.
What do you got?
Hold up.
Breaking news?
I forgot about this.
Okay.
No, not breaking news. I just forgot about this.
Okay.
Baez might not be a Met because of somebody on the Mets that is coming back from a steroid suspension.
Oh, that's right. You know, that's so funny you said that because I saw a projected lineup and they had Cano as our DH. And I was like, that's just disgusting. Don't want it. Hate it.
Don't love.
Ugh.
Full body ick.
Yep. Maximum ick.
But he's got 2 years, $24 million a year left on his deal.
Oh, I hate that so much.
So, and the positive guy in me says, in the shortened year, he batted like 970 OPS or something crazy.
He was 316 batting average, 896 OPS in the shortened season. The year before, he was bad, though.
But he got popped for a steroid. Like, so did he take him that whole year? Right? Like, is that what got you to the show? Well, so then, like that, and that's my thing. Is like that's that slippery slope. Did he? But weren't they testing him during the regular season?
So
I don't know.
Here's the one thing looking at his
I hate that
stats
so much.
is 2019, his first season with the Mets, he was absolutely garbage. Prior to that, he was still Robinson Cano.
Yep.
Did he feel the downturn coming? Didn't want to have that pressure in a New York market?
No.
Start taking it again.
No.
You think he's been doing it the whole time?
No. I think he took it because he was shitty, and he's Robinson Cano and he wanted to be a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. And in his head, he's a Hall of Famer.
Not anymore.
Statistically, I mean,
Statistically, I agree.
No, statistically, sure.
He's one of the best second basemen in the history of the game.
Yes, that's fair.
And there was a very large stretch of time where I would say to every single Yankees fan, up, down, and sideways, that Jeter is no longer and has not been the best player in New York. From the time Robinson Cano came up, I'm pretty sure he was a better player than Derek Jeter.
Do you want me to read off some of his numbers in New York?
So tell me the
when
year.
Jeter was there.
So no, just tell me the year that you have going on, and then I'll tell you Derek Jeter stats that year.
So Jeter retired what year?
Doesn't matter. Tell me the first year that he
We'll start
played.
with 2005 because that's his first year.
Excellent. 2005, Derek Jeter was 31 years old.
Robinson Cano was 22. Rookie of the year, he finished second that year.
What was his OPS?
OPS was 778. Batting average was 297.
So that year goes to Jeter. Jeter's OPS in 2005 was 839. He had a 309 batting average.
2006, first All-Star. Robinson Cano was a 342 batting average, 890 OPS.
They were relatively equal. Jeter had a 900 OPS, 343 batting average.
2007, 306 batting average, 841 OPS.
Equal to Jeter, 322 batting average, 840 OPS.
2008, 271 batting average, 715 OPS. That was definitely a down year.
They all sucked. Jeter had a 771 OPS. 2008 was a rough year for the kids.
2009, last World Series.
Yep.
320 batting average, 871 OPS.
Derek Jeter, 871 OPS.
Weren't he bat that year?
334.
2010, 319 batting average, 914 OPS.
710 for Jeter.
This is on the decline.
2011, 302 batting average for Cano, 882 OPS.
743.
2012, 313 batting average, 929 OPS.
316 batting average, 791 OPS.
We're still going with Jeter's career?
Uh-huh.
Oh, geez, he played a while.
So again, we can all say that probably somewhere around 2006, 2007, Jeter and Cano were equals.
I just want to also bring this up.
But then by 2010, Cano was the best player. So Jeter wasn't the best player as far back. The last time he was really like even in the conversation of the best player was like 2005. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, he was still in his 20s.
So from 2010 to 2014, Robinson Cano was a top 5 MVP finalist every single year.
Yeah. So Cano's Cano's got that borderline Hall of Fame feel to him. Mm-hmm. And then again, when he was with Seattle, he was a great hitter. He had, again, probably one down year, and then he started popping home runs again. So I think that's one of the big things that's going to happen next year is that you're going to have old man Cano is going to need at-bats to get around that thing. And then the following year, I think he'll get bought out. But I don't think they're going to buy out $48 million of it.
No, I don't think so
because they're
either.
going to give him a shot to hit. Because he's playing right now in the Winter League.
Yeah, and if we do have a DH, I think it helps a little bit.
Yep.
Because, like we were talking about, like is Dom Smith our DH? Well, if just for funsies we say that we have the Cano from 2020 that mashed, cool. I'll take that as our DH. Since we don't really have another option.
I would tell you right now, I don't think that Dom Smith makes it to. I don't think Dom Smith makes it to the season with the Mets.
Okay. I'm honestly fine with that as long as we get something decent in return.
I would say right now, if I'm the Mets, what's my biggest need? Do I need more good players? I need great players.
Yeah, that's
right?
really it. Yep.
And do I need?
We need good pitching and great players.
So the reality is, I would trade some of my good players for a good pitcher.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So at this
We're looking
point
at
in
a
time,
hole in number 5, but I'd rather move 3 and 4 back and get a number 3 guy.
Now the other thing to me is, if there is a DH, I could also see a world where Cano stops playing second base every day, and sometimes he's the opposite hitting first baseman instead of Dom, because he's got power, and his
So Winter League stats right now. This is quite interesting for Cano.
Okay, hit us.
So 6 games, he is 292 batting average, but his OPS, you want to take a wild guess as to what it is?
1426.
599.
Oh wow,
Excellent.
Singles.
Damn.
Singles hitter.
So maybe not power anymore.
Well, we'll say
Or maybe
that's
he's
6
just-
games.
it's 6 games,
It's
yeah.
6 games. It's the power of small numbers on that one, but the 292 batting average means more to me in terms of him barreling it up. Right? Like, yeah, he's only hitting singles, but at least he's barreling things up, and he doesn't look like he can't get the bat around in the Winter League. Now, the Winter League is variable, right? You get guys who are young throwing 100. You get guys who are like 43 throwing 86, and they're a local hero.
Yeah.
So it's difficult for me to say exactly what all those numbers equate to, but it's probably at least as good as the Arizona Fall League, if not better. So there's that. The thing for me with Robbie is I'd rather let him spell Alonso, because Alonso could then take rest days and be a DH. Cano is going to be a good glove at first. It allows you to move Dom Smith out of that position. It allows you to then go out and figure out your outfield somewhere. But at this point in time, with Conforto leaving, I don't know if there's even a possibility for like McNeil to not be an outfielder. Like, McNeil's an outfielder if he's a Met at this point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless for some reason we don't bring back Javi.
but even then, I don't know.
Yeah.
At that point in time, I don't like. The Mets are misconstructed, and they're right now lopsided in too many different categories. And this goes back. They have a lot of money in Francisco Lindor, but they also have a lot of money in DeGrom and Cano and guys who just don't matter.
Yeah.
That money's shifting off the clock soon. What's going to happen with that roster? And that's why I've said to you guys, like, I think the Mets' idea is they're moving away from the big spend this offseason unless they can get the exact guy they want. They can get the real homie that they want.
Right. And listen, we had some news also this week that it looks like we're going to have a GM.
Yep.
A GM who has been with the Angels and was at least active enough that he wanted to, re-sign Trout and spend money.
Well, you had an interesting tidbit of information on our new GM.
Yes. His best friend is David Stearns, who was the Mets' previous number 1 option as a GM. And his issue was that he had 1 year left as Milwaukee's guy.
And they wouldn't let him interview for the job.
Exactly.
So is this a move where they hire the guy he would want, And then next year, he has a guy he knows he can work with, and they can hire him as the president of baseball operations.
Mm-hmm.
With that being the case, I don't know if the Mets are going to swing big in free agency without having a baseball operations guy who wants to execute on his game plan in-house.
Yeah.
And that, again, goes back. I think the Mets know what they need to do, but I also – Dom Smith, how long does Dom Smith have left before he's done with arbitration? And then on top of that, it's the same thing. I think there's a year or two left on McNeil, a year or two left on J.D. Davis. Like, all these guys have team control, but they're not part of the Mets'
Dom
future.
Smith has 2 years left of ARB.
And he's 27?
Yeah.
He's not going to be a UFA till 30. That's so bad.
Yep.
Bro, it's crazy. Been in the league for forever. First round pick. Like, huh?
Yep.
It's broken. It's broken.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, too. Last year, we got a new GM, right? Very quickly dismissed, but he came in and pretty quickly, we had Francisco Lindor, right?
That had nothing to do with the GM. He had no choice.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. He comes in and ownership was like, yo, we need to get things happening. Maybe that's the case again. Obviously, Sandy's been having talks with a lot of big name people's agents and things. So maybe it's like, hey, we've done the preliminary work. Come in. Here's what they're talking about. Make it happen.
I could see them repurposing trades more than anything else.
Okay.
I just, again, I think that we talk about it. There's 3 guys on the team who are playing out of position to some degree.
Right.
And the best hitter of them, overall danger, is J.D. Davis.
Mm-hmm.
The best, I think, guy overall is probably McNeil in terms of versatility, batting average, enough power, things like that. And then Dom Smith is the biggest home run threat and biggest need. There's not a lot of great first basemen who can field the ball and hit 25-plus home runs.
Right.
Brandon Belt just re-signed with the Giants. He's a $19 million guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at Brandon Belt and say he's too dissimilar to a guy like Dom Smith.
Yeah.
I think that there's some similarities in them.
I think the Giants really needed that too because obviously they have a ton of guys on their team that are free agents.
Yep.
And with Posey retiring, I think they were going to be like, oh shoot, like are we going to not have any kind of veteran presence?
Yep.
And I think Belt is definitely something they wanted to keep at first base. And if there's a potential for a DH next year, maybe that's a thing that he gets into as well to stay healthy and all that. Definitely curious how they kind of move forward from there with that happening. But yes, I do semi-compare them. I think Belt's a little bit older. But yeah, in terms of lefty bat, first
Belt's
base.
33.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Belt's 33, but Belt didn't turn himself on until the last 2 years. He's a career 820 OPS guy. His last 2 years have been borderline 1,000 OPS seasons.
Okay.
One season I think was over, one season was under. But the years preceding that, he was like a mid to high 700 OPS guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's Dom Smith. And that's kind of my point is Dom Smith needs to get out of the outfield just because I think it'll help his bat, where he's not having to overthink his position as much, and that'll allow his bat to lift. Then also how much of it was just that they were bad last year. If Dom Smith is the best version of himself next year for the Mets are nasty, right? Keep him in left field. Mets are nasty, right? But you got 400 on-base percentage, Brandon Nimmo. You got a guy who can hit 30 home runs in Smith, a guy who can hit 50 home runs in Pete Alonso, 2 30 home run guys in the middle of it, and then a young guy playing third base and a young guy playing center field who both could hit 20 home runs. And then J.D. Davis playing DH if you keep him. So I don't know where they're going to go, but I do think that they should sit it out. And if they're going to spend any money, I would spend it on pitching, and I would trade 1 or 2 of the 3 guys that we've discussed multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's your take on Verlander re-signing for $25 million for a single year?
I don't know how I feel about it. I think for him, whatever the market was for him, probably just wasn't satisfying enough.
I mean, he's old.
Yeah. So, and I think he has a family now.
He was old when he came there.
Yes. And listen, God bless him, he still was pitching amazing.
Yep.
And I think it's a comfortability thing of like, hey, I can get a great amount of money to not really have to move, and he can still pretty much be he doesn't have to be a number one guy. They got Lance McCullers now, who's really come into his own and become the number one. I think it's just like an easy way for him. Like, I know they were talking about him going back to Detroit and things. Like, all those moves just didn't seem right. Everyone thought he was coming to New York, which just didn't seem likely.
To the Mets?
No, the Yankees.
Oh, I could see it for the Yankees.
I could see it, but
the Yankees just need pitching for 1 year.
Yes,
they don't want to load their long-term salary up and be in the threshold forever. But the Yankees, to me, are the prime team to go out and get a guy on a 1-year deal.
The Yankees only offered him $10 million though, which his qualifying offer was $18 million. So
made no sense. So I didn't
because that proves the Yankees have no cash.
And I think it's also too is
good luck getting
Houston's
Carlos
in a
Correa.
little bit of like I don't want to say rebuild, but they're gonna lose Correa. They're losing somebody else, I believe, from their outfield. Like, they're just going to kind of be in a weird limbo spot next year, I think. I don't think they're going to be as competitive, and hopefully they are. That'd be great.
When we talk about it, also lines up with where do you actually think you are competitively in the landscape?
Exactly. And that's why I think he stayed there, is because I don't think it's going to be quite a high-stress environment.
The downside is the Braves. The Braves messed up a whole bunch of teams. Mm-hmm. Because there's a whole bunch of teams who are like, we could be the Braves.
Yep.
Why not us? And the reality is, like, dude, that's the outlier, not the rule. Mm-hmm. Right? Like,
The Braves were hurt and mediocre at the trade deadline. They made some amazing moves.
Yep.
And that helped them get to
where
they are.
And they're going to get Acuna back, and they're going to be a good team, but the magic doesn't necessarily exist that way. Mm-hmm. Phillies are out here looking to spend more money again.
Yep. The Braves actually were, like, last minute in on Verlander, which I thought was interesting.
Again, I think that anytime you can load up your team, when they probably heard that $10 million was being offered on the table, and he was out here like, sure, like we'll throw some money at you to go and be that. I'm surprised that at that point, when Syndergaard signed, that the Mets weren't willing to at least throw that same 1-year deal out on the table for a guy like Verlander.
Yeah,
I would have done a single year of that.
Absolutely.
Do you think DeGrom is ever the same again?
I'm worried, to be honest with you. I'm very worried. I think there was a lot of different news coming out of the organization and him. He said his elbow was fine. Sandy said there was damage, and then there was, all right, I'm going to sit, and then I can maybe come back, and then nothing. I'm concerned that they're going to not make any pitching moves, or if it is, it's going to be small, and then he's going to come back next year and be fine, and then we're going to have a Syndergaard situation. And it's going to be in spring training, and something bad's going to happen. I'm not even going to put it out into the world because that would really upset me. But I'm worried that might be the case.
Yeah. I would hope. I don't know. I would hope that somebody would take a little bit of a shot on it and say, hey, we got to do something about this guy's arm. We got to maybe,
bolster the rotation a little bit.
Yeah, get too many guys again. Like
there's hold on, I just looked it up. There are some mid-level arms that the Mets could afford, and would definitely be a smart move, like John Gray, Zach Greinke. Like, I don't know, somebody that's just been around a little bit. Like
Dennis would love Zach Greinke.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Dennis would lose his mind to have Zach Greinke on the Mets, and he's not even a Mets fan per se. He just is a weird guy in the MLB fan. Mm-hmm. The craziest thing about Greinke is Greinke's coming off that he just got paid $32 million to pitch last year.
The Spotrac suggested value for him is $9 million.
Like,
which seems about right, honestly.
Oh man, does it seem right?
I'd pay him $10 million to be our number, call it 3 arm. Number 2, 3.
I'm saying, is that all he's worth? What was he this year? 4.16 ERA, 11-6. Like, yeah, you're right. I'd pay him at least $10 million.
Yeah. And I think they didn't. Kershaw didn't get a qualifying offer, right?
No.
I don't think he did.
No.
I thought that was very interesting. I thought the Dodgers should at least just, like, he was pitching really well for whatever his age is. Like,
You're showing your age today, man.
I know.
You're showing your
33.
age.
I couldn't remember I know he was like older than 30.
He is the oldest. Yeah, he had a 3.55 ERA this year, 33. But here's the bigger issue.
Okay.
He hasn't thrown 200 innings since 2015.
Where did he get to this year?
121 innings. The year before, 58, shortened season.
Right.
The year before that, 178. The year before that, 161, 175, 149.
But that's the thing is I don't think you need him to be a 200 inning guy anymore. I'd be happy.
Well, so
with
that's my point. Like
125 to 150.
you got to figure out where you're going to be. Like what's going to be the thing. If you're going to get
interesting take on him.
26 starts on him, then you're looking at about 150, 170 innings.
Texas guy sent him to the Rangers. That's interesting. They need that.
For sure. Again, I think it all comes down to who thinks they're shooting for contention, and we'll know based off of signings. But I always say you have to go into free agency with the idea of where is my team at in the process, and how do I stack up against the other teams.
Right.
And right now, right this second, like teams that you have to be concerned about are going to be good.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees will always win 90-plus games because they spend more money than everybody else.
Yep.
Right? The Blue Jays are the best team in baseball. Like they're a few guys away from having one of the more dominant teams I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
The Rays are
They're
going to be a good
super
team.
team type thing.
The Rays are going to be a good team.
Mm-hmm.
When you start to assess, right, like the Angels just put in a bunch of money.
Mm-hmm.
The Angels could be real good. Is it worth going after big name guys who by the time your team can win based off of other people's timelines, they're not good anymore? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it more worth it to punt? That's why I look at the Mets situation and I go, Mets should punt. Punt 1 year to win the war.
Mm-hmm.
Like too often it's like, because I don't think the Mets will be bad next year regardless of what they do.
Yeah.
Just their core of hitters that they have, the core four, that lineup's going to be good. And if you put the young guys in, the young guys are good, the team will be great.
Mm-hmm.
Put your money into pitching. Young, reasonably affordable pitching, guys who you can get after who have some upside left and available. I wouldn't sign a pitcher for more than 3 years who's over the age of 31. Like
that's where I'm thinking is like let's work in a 3-year window. If we're gonna not be great next year for whatever reason because we're in limbo with some of our pieces on the team, fine. But if you want to sign like call it for fun, let's say Kevin Gausman, right? Had a great year, and you want to make a move on him and bring him in for like decent money. Sign him for like 5 years with the intent that his second season will be where you try to go more all in, and then go off of that. Because like listen, we know for a fact that Correa, Bryant, all these guys are going to be expensive. And is it going to be worth it to handcuff yourself to these guys?
So here's my dark horse candidate pitcher.
Okay.
My super dark horse candidate pitcher who I would like to see the Mets give the Taiwan Walker deal to.
Okay.
Zach Davies.
Okay.
So Zach Davies had a very down year this year.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 5.78 ERA, 32 games started though, but he only threw 148 innings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he walked 75 guys. It's the most. So just to put it in perspective, in the previous 6 years, he had walked people 200 times total. In one season, he walked 75.
Okay.
So he got 35% of his walks in 1 year. So the seasons before that, the shortened year, 2.73 ERA.
Mm-hmm.
The year before that, 3.55. The year before that, 4.77. Before that, 3.9, 3.97, 3.71. He has a career 4.14. And the only reason he's above 4 is because of the 5.78 season he just put up with the Chicago Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Cubbies were a team that was just trying to move the needle along. He signed for $8 million. $8.6 million with the Cubs last year. How much would he cost? And would you be willing to give him at age 29? He's still 28. It'll be his age 29 season, though. His age 29 season, if you gave him 3 years and you gave him $24 million, I think that's a steal. And now the challenge is, like, that's a better pitcher than David Peterson.
That's the thing. Is like there's so many mid-level free agents that I'd rather have over David Peterson. And I think it's a very safe move to get, like, the majority of them.
Why do you hate David so much?
I don't hate him. I really want him to do well, but he was all kinds of inconsistent.
I think his biggest inconsistently last year was that his elbow was gone, and he wasn't telling anybody.
Okay.
So I think he wasn't himself, and he was, because you'd see him, he'd have great start, bad start. You and me were texting back and forth.
Yep.
Great start, bad start, great start, bad start. That was the arm. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's when you know, like, when you're that inconsistent, but the same guy is there, and he was aggressive, he was attacking zones. When he had the stuff, he was spotting up moment. Like, he looked great. Mm. But then you'd just see him, and he'd throw, and he looked like he felt uncomfortable, and that the elbow had to have been hurting him, and he just wasn't talking about it. Because the year before, he's a 3.44 ERA. Even if we go by his FIP, both seasons he was a 4.5 and a 4.78. Mm-hmm. That 5.54 is more on his unluckiness with a bad elbow. I think that he's going to be a guy who settles in as a low 4 ERA guy, which is, again, that's Zach Davies. So if I told you that you had a lefty and a righty at the end of your rotation, those two guys who would both be, call it, $8 million pitchers who are going to get you 4 ERAs, what's Taijuan Walker?
Well,
right? Is Taijuan Walker?
Second half, Taijuan Walker was
an abomination.
First half, Taijuan was like a 2 ERA. So here's who I'm going to compare, like, what you're talking about with Peterson and in who we got at the trade deadline, Rich Hill. As much as Rich Hill is not like an overly dominating guy, you know what you're getting with him.
No.
Yes, you do.
But no.
No, I don't. I'm not saying I want him, but I'm saying for the kind of guy that I want to know what we're getting.
Yeah.
So he's a 3.86 ERA. He's not going to blow people away, but he's going to give you a quality start all the time. Get me somebody who's going to give you a quality start all the time.
Zach Davies.
And that's fine if that's who the guy is, but that's what I want to see out of free agency.
David Peterson.
But David Peterson, you don't know what
But Rich Hill didn't give you that. Rich Hill only made it 4 or 5 innings every time he came up.
That's fine.
They would take him out every time. No, it's not fine because he gets to mix
somebody
up.
Who'll give you one more inning than that. So
but that's my point.
6 innings.
But, like, if you gave him
runs,
one more inning, if you had given him one more inning, he's not a 4 ERA guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a 5 ERA guy.
Right.
And then my point is he's worse than both Peterson and Davies. But they know at age 41 what he is, and that's that he's only a 4-inning guy. He's only a 2-time through the rotation guy. Right? We can't do this where he gets to go more than 2.
Yeah.
So on days where he lights it up, he can get 5 and something innings and everything's great. But on days where he doesn't have his stuff, he goes 3.2, and the Mets bullpen is getting sucked out.
So that's all I'm saying. I agree with you. I don't want that. I need someone who can go 5 to 6 and keep it at 2 to 3 runs.
And that's for me. The move for me is a guy like Davies because he's only, if he just signed for $8 million coming off of a 2.7 ERA season, what's he going to sign coming off a 5.5 ERA season? Bless you, Deets. It can't be much more.
A year?
Hey, so I'm here for come to the Mets and be our guy and get your innings, right? Mm-hmm. Because if the lineup's there, you're going to win some games and you're going to get yourself some luck into things. The other side of it is, why was Marcus Strowman so successful this year?
We had good defense.
Yeah. So Strowman's numbers look really, really nice because our defense is pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And your shortstop's the best shortstop in the game defensively. So, like, if a guy like Davies and Peterson and those guys come and Baez decides to stay, your up-the-middle defense is elite, mm-hmm. right? Pete Alonso is not a schlub at first base.
No.
He can field.
Mm-hmm.
They want him to only hit, but the dude can field. That's where a guy like Zach Davies is underpriced, and we talked about this months ago. It's the market inefficiency. It's the Patriots going and making a run-first offense in the middle of pass-happy league, right? It's you zag when everybody else zigs. Mm-hmm. And everybody's out here trying to get the big, high, like, strikeout dudes, throw gas guys. Mm-hmm. So these guys who are just the Dylan G's of the world, these okay guys, they're making no money. Give me those guys because I've got sick defense. I need a center fielder. That's why I want Khalil Lee. Put Khalil in center, get those two up the middle. Mazel tov, we're going to win games. And our pitching staff's going to be good. And that's where I think like the Mets don't have to sell their souls to be a good team. It's what other teams are doing who are winning. They're not signing the elite guys for crazy money.
Mm-hmm.
They're developing and filling in. And I so far, everybody's just willy-nilly spending money. Or are completely out.
Yeah.
Has free agency surprised you in any way?
Not yet. I think the people who have signed, well, that's not true. Syndergaard signing with the Angels surprised me. But the fact that only pitchers have signed so far has not surprised me. And I think more so with the fact that the CBA is potentially going to be a real problem, I think it also makes sense that they're taking safe deals. That's why JV didn't want to go to the Yankees versus stay at home in Houston. That's why Syndergaard, he took a 1-year deal. He was going to take a 1-year deal anyway, and he's going to get more money to go there, so that's a safe bet. Barrios instead of going somewhere else, he said, I'm on a phenomenal team. I'm going to stay here for a while at a cheap price. Rodriguez got a great deal for what I think he was worth anyway. So It all made sense to me so far. But I think it also, like you were saying, like it the way this is already unfolding, it sets the market now. And I think that's always, at least for MLB free agency, it's who's going to go first.
Yep.
And then how does that impact
Everybody
everybody
works
else?
off that.
Like when it was Machado and Harper, nobody wanted to sign because if one of them signed for $25 million less, it was going to screw the other person. So nobody wanted to do it. But I think it's the way it's already unfolded. I'm super curious how it's going to go because we're looking at December 1 is the cutoff date for the CBA.
Yep.
And then we start getting into real problems.
Yeah.
So we got 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Yep.
And if I not just from what I've heard so far, and there's no real big news coming out, I don't know if anything really crazy is going to happen. And at that point, where do they go from there? I don't know. But I'm very curious to see how that goes if we get to December 1 and none of the big names have signed yet.
So Strowman is a 3.6 ERA guy. He's roughly Barrios.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's going to sign the Barrios deal somewhere, 7 years, 115 to 120 million, where is he going?
I don't think it's the Mets at that year's.
Ooh.
I think if the Mets were going to do something with him, it'd be like a 3 to 5 type thing. I don't know.
He wouldn't sign for 3.
That's what I'm saying.
This is his last deal.
Right. So he wants to go somewhere where he's going to be happy and stay.
It's going to be his style.
Yeah.
It's going to be his stuff.
And I think he likes being at home in New York. I think, and obviously he played well, and he knows that he has a good defense behind him, which aids in him.
If the Mets offer 5 and 20 a year, they offer 100 million.
When are they offering it to him? Or has it already been offered? Because I think that's going to play a role.
The offer that they have on the table right now is let's call it like 5 for 18. And he asks for 5 for 22. They settle on 5 for 20. Would you be happy, sad, indifferent? You think they did a good job, bad job, what?
I'd say I'd take it.
At this point in time, I think that to some degree,
because like I was saying before, he is a guy you know what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of ground balls.
Exactly what you're going to get.
And we have a defense now that can support him and help him be a great player.
And he is a good defensive.
He's had the Gold Glove.
He should have been the Gold Glover.
Absolutely.
This year. Because he made some absolutely ridiculous plays.
Yes.
That one play with Javi Baez where he covered third base and Javi led him to the base and he slid into it to get the guy out. Like, no other pitcher in all of baseball makes that play.
Nope.
Right? I don't care who you are. No other player makes that play. He's elite defensively.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the upside and downside is we see so much of Stroh off the field, and he just kind of always is needling everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine, be yourself, but like it's why you're abrasive in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's a bad thing, but it I feel like has tainted everybody's beliefs of him.
Yeah.
At that price, him and Barrios have been very similar. I'd say Berrios has the more elite arm. Strowman, where other guys who are soft pitchers, who don't throw hard and throw to contact, where I say that they're going to regress tremendously because their velo won't last, I feel like Strowman will carry longer because of how well he fields.
Yes. And I also think, too, the way his repertoire is structured, he's more of a field pitch guy. He doesn't work off his fastball. It's mainly his off-speed stuff. And then he sneaks the fastball in there. It's usually like a sinker or something like that, and that's where he's getting those outs. And I think that translates a little more when you start coming back on your velo to 87 to 90 instead of 90 to 93.
Well, Mets just found $18 million.
Right.
They actually just found $37 million.
True. Yes, they found two
players.
Yes.
2 players opted out.
Yep.
Now Strowman was how much last year? $18 million, right?
Yeah, these arbitrations.
So real talk. You had that money come off. If you just gave Strowman roughly the qualifying offer amount for 5 years, do you think he takes it? There's no better deal than that on the market.
That's why I'm saying I think it's important that the long-term deals were where they're at, because he's definitely going to say he's better than Rodriguez, and if we're saying he's quote unquote comparable to Berrios, if we even said we're going to give him 19 just to make him feel better.
So that's the thing. He's 3 years older than Berrios.
Right.
So I would look at him and say I can't give you 7 years like they gave Berrios. Because that takes him to 34. 5 years takes you to 35.
Yep.
Right? We'll give you a little bit more per season. That's the 20 for 5 years. I think if the Mets did that, I'd be good with that. Because at this point in time, he's a 3 ERA almost every year. He fills his position. He's pretty decent with his bat. And guys play hard for him when they're in the field. And that's all I'm really looking at is does that happen? And how often does that happen? And with the Mets right now, they need the pitching, and we know what we have in him. Taijuan Walker appreciates him. He has a good relationship with Lindor, it appears. Got a super good relationship with Pete Alonso and Trevor May, who are all back on the team next year. So, I think he fits that. That's the curiosity now. What does he want in his life? Because I think at one point in time, he was going to go to L.A., and L.A. was like, we can give him $20 million for 5 years. We can give Syndergaard it for 1. Let's go and let's just do the 1 because we don't know what we're going to do a year later.
Yep.
Because if they bomb, if they don't win next year, what are they going to do?
They're going to have a lot of questions.
Right? You might gut it, right? Rendon will be in his early 30s. You're going to have to pay $50 million to Ohtani. It's proven at this point that having Mike Trout doesn't matter. So, trade him to somebody else who he also won't matter for. But, at least you'll get something for him and build your team around Ohtani and Walsh and reset. So, you trade 2 guys in Rendon and Trout, and then you let Walsh take his spot, Shohei be the dude, let Syndergaard walk into the sunset, go somewhere else after a great year where he only pitched 125 innings.
Yeah. And I think, too, just knowing Strowman's life a little bit, he's got a house in Tampa. He's from New York. Obviously Met spring training is in Florida. It all kind of makes sense for him to stay where he's at. Yeah. It's just a matter of if the price is right.
If the price is right. Last Mets question. Where does Conforto go?
Seattle.
Seattle's the team, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think Seattle's the team as well. I think the bat plays in the park. I think he's culturally there. He's an Oregon kid. So, he's from that region. There's a lot of reasons to bring him in. He is a young enough player, and he's had some high enough good seasons that I am going to say right now, sadly, he's going to have a Daniel Murphy stretch over the next 5 years, where I think for the next 3 years he's going to be a borderline all-star, and we'll miss him.
Yep.
And then he'll drop off a effing cliff, and we'll be like, what happened to Michael Conforto? But yeah, I think he's going to sign. I agree. I think the Mariners are the team, and I think the Mariners are going to give him, less than we expect.
Okay.
I don't think
more than his qualifying.
Less than his qualifying.
Less than his qualifying, but for 5 years.
5 years.
Okay.
5 or 6 years.
Yeah, that's what
I
had
could see.
mine, too.
I could see Conforto getting 6-16
Yeah,
or 5-18.
that seems to be the trend. Is like little safer on the average annual, but get your safety.
Just get
of
your
5
money.
years, 7 years,
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see where it ends up. We got a couple weeks of some questions, and then there might be dead silence for 2 months.
You know how it works. There's gonna be a dope ass signing today as soon as we get off.
Yep, that is usually how it happens. Excellent.
Just our luck.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. There might be some big news. We'll find out.
Oh shoot.
Baseball lifestyle, it's my lifestyle.